it'll stop him from talking about her?
Maybe for a few hours, maybe for a few days. We've seen it before. We've seen him say and do outrageous things. And early on in his presidency, we'd see him say the most insane things. And then all of a sudden he'd tamp it down for a few hours and read from a teleprompter. And they'd say, oh, this is the new Donald Trump. Well, there is no new Donald Trump. The Donald Trump that you see today is the same Donald Trump that people who have been watching him closely for years and who I unfortunately had to watch over the last several years. It's the same Donald Trump. He is, as Judge Kaplan, the presiding judge in this case, said, he's somebody who can't control himself. And he can't control himself because he's a deeply disturbed, a deeply morally bereft human being who has no conscience, has no morality, has no empathy, has no remorse, and is sadistic, as we saw during the trial, and as the jurors saw in the trial, right in front of their very eyes, that he had nothing but contempt for the woman that he raped and libeled and defamed so many times. This is a sick man. He is a bad man. And what's most disturbing about this is that so many people make this about politics, that they want to support him for whatever reason or because they've done it in the past, and they pretend that he is not who he is. And many of them, I mean, some of them are ignoramuses, but many of them in the upper reaches of his political party know better. They know who he is. They talk about who he is behind closed doors. They know he is an evil man. They know he is a sick man. They talk about his mental deficiencies, his psychological disorders. They talk about what a pathological liar he is. And then when somebody asks them to go on the record to talk about it, they say, oh, no comment. I didn't see the tweet. They say, like a presidential candidate recently did, I haven't been following the case or something like that. And they're all lying to protect a pathological liar. And it's about time that these people look themselves in the mirror and start telling the truth. Okay, it's better for them in the long run to start telling the truth and admit that they've been covering up for a sexual predator, a criminal, a thief, a man who does not deserve to hold any office, let alone the highest office in the land. But this is, again, it's not about politics. It's about right and wrong. And people need to start looking at it that way.
George Conway, you played a pivotal role in this. Thank you for joining tonight with your perspective.
Setback so far for the former president, who's facing multiple criminal and civil cases, obviously. Joining us now, two of our political commentators, Van Jones and David Urban. Van, you're an attorney, I know. I'm wondering what your reaction is to the jury's decision today.
Well, I think that they felt that this was a completely out of control party. And they were trying to send a message that you got to follow the rules. Look, if Donald Trump had just conducted himself the way that anybody watching this, including those women, by the way, would have conducted themselves, which is to follow the rules, follow the judge's orders, there would not have been this massive judgment against him. The vast majority of the money is not because of what Donald Trump did a long time ago. It's because of how he's been acting ever since. And so I think that, this is not going to be reversed on appeal. It is a reasonable attempt of our court system to tell Donald Trump and anybody else, you can't just flout the law. You can't just continue to insult people when you've already been found liable for doing so.
David, Nikki Haley posted tonight, quote, Donald Trump wants to be the presumptive Republican nominee, and we're talking about $83 million in damages. We're not talking about fixing the border. We're not talking about tackling inflation. America can do better than Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I'm wondering, do you think that's an effective line for her?
Well, listen, that's a line she's going to continue to take. And look, Nikki Haley is not coincidentally the gentleman who kind of funded this lawsuit, Reid Hoffman, is also one of Nikki Haley's biggest supporters. So that we shouldn't lose sight of that. And I disagree with Van, not surprisingly, that the $83 million is reasonable. I think that even those in the courtroom, when they heard that number, gasped at how outrageous it was. Right? The punitive damages are so high that it's guaranteed will be reversed on appeal. And as you heard those,
but actually, all lawyers say that's actually not the case. That it based on I mean, we've had a number of lawyers say that's not the case.
Let's have me back on. You can prove me wrong.
All right. Well,
I'll bet
it's not me saying it. I'm just saying what the lawyers say.
Hey, I'll bet you $83 million, brother.
Listen, Anderson, I think that here's the narrative, right? This is in New York City. It's a New York verdict. It's a New York jury. The case was put together by George Conway, right? There's email as a part of the introducing the concept to E. Jean Carroll. Look, you
So
should.
what does that matter?
You should sue Donald Trump
Is that
in court.
this is a deep state thing?
No, Anderson, you're asking about the political ramifications of this, right? That was how we started the segment. I'm telling you the political ramifications are that those voters that you just heard and others are going to look at this and say, this case was started by somebody who hates Donald Trump and George Conway, funded by someone who hates Trump and Reid Hoffman, and the verdict was given down by people who hate Donald Trump in Manhattan. That's how it's going to be viewed politically.
Ben, obviously no one wants to be on the hook for $83 million. Does this outcome, do you think, does it help the former president politically? I mean, among those Trump supporters that Randy Cage has talked to, it doesn't give them any pause at all.
Well, I think that, there are people who kind of are drinking the Kool-Aid. This is a big bucket of Kool-Aid for them to drink. But I think if you're Donald Trump, he says he's got $3 billion. He probably has $1 billion. It's not liquid. He's going to have to sell something to pay this thing off. And by the way, this verdict is only 3x the actual damages. Look, you get 6x, 10x, 20x. That's when the appeals court steps in and says no. 3x on punitive, that's not reversible. So they can say whatever they want to say. He's going to have to sell something on this thing. And I think it's going to hurt Donald Trump. Whether it hurts his movement or his cause, probably not.
David, do you think that the former president benefits from, walking out of court, his behavior in the court, according to, those who were in the court, the attorney for Jean Carroll, they all believe that certainly hurt him with the jury, and that is what resulted in the money.